All right, everyone get ready,
Oh,
because today we're diving deep into the life of Walter Houser Brattain,
oh yeah.
the co-inventor of the transistor.
The transistor.
You might be thinking, ugh, another history lesson.
Right.
But I promise this is going to be anything but boring.
Yeah.
We're talking about a guy born in China,
Mm.
2 American parents,
Wow.
part of a group called the Four Horsemen of Physics.
Really?
It's a story full of surprises, believe me.
It is. And his journey goes from a childhood on a cattle ranch in Washington all the way to the Nobel Prize.
Wow.
We're going to discover how all these seemingly unrelated experiences all came together to create like this perfect moment for innovation.
So let's start with that unusual birthplace.
Okay.
Amoy,
Right in.
now called Xiamen. It
Mhm.
makes you wonder, right?
It does.
How did those early cultural influences affect him?
For sure. And you can't forget about his family background, too.
Yeah.
His father was a teacher, and his mother
All right.
a gifted mathematician.
No kidding.
Both of them graduated from Whitman College,
Oh, Whitman College.
which, as you'll see, plays a big role in Brattain's story later on.
Interesting.
This mix of intellectual curiosity,
Yeah.
and a strong academic foundation seems to be super important in his development.
Yeah, it's like the seeds were planted right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So Whitman College is where we first hear about these 4 horsemen of physics.
Right.
I mean, what are the odds?
Yeah.
4 future stars in science, all from the same small college.
It's pretty unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
You've got Brattain, of course,
Mhm.
then Walker Bleakney, Vladimir Rajansky, and E. John Workman.
Wow, what a group.
The fact that they all came from the same place
Right.
suggests that something special was going on at Whitman back then.
It does. It makes you wonder if they were all pushing each other
Yeah.
to achieve great things, you know?
Yeah.
Did those early relationships influence Brattain's later collaborations, do you think?
I think it's very possible. Collaborative environments
Yeah.
are often where innovation happens.
For sure.
And don't forget, Bratton's own brother, Robert,
Mm-hmm.
became a physicist too.
Oh, wow.
He even introduced Walter to John Bardeen,
Oh, really?
his future partner in the whole transistor thing.
That's a what-if moment right there.
Yeah, right.
Imagine if they'd never met. Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
So after Whitman,
Hmm?
Brattain went to the University of Oregon
Uh-huh.
and then got his PhD from the University of Minnesota.
Right. And it's at Minnesota where things get really interesting.
Okay.
He got to study with John Hasbrouck Van Vleck,
Then Fleck.
a pioneer in quantum mechanics.
Wow.
This exposure to cutting-edge theory was crucial for Bratton's later work.
Right.
It's like he was absorbing all the tools he'd need to make his big breakthrough.
Right. So he's got this amazing foundation
He does.
in both theoretical AD applied physics.
Yes.
But before we get into his groundbreaking work, I'm curious about his personal life.
Okay.
He was married twice.
Yeah.
And had children.
Fair.
A good reminder that these big names in science
Yeah.
were also real people.
They were, absolutely. And those personal experiences probably shaped his view of the world.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe even influenced his scientific pursuits.
Interesting.
But let's shift gears now
Go
and
ahead.
talk about how his career takes off.
Right.
It all starts at the National Bureau of Standards,
Okay.
where he works on these things called piezoelectric frequency standards.
Piezo what?
Piezoelectric.
That's complicated.
It's less intimidating than it sounds, trust me.
Okay.
Basically, it involves materials that generate an electric charge
Ugh.
when you put mechanical stress on them.
So like,
Think of quartz crystals used in watches.
oh,
That's piezoelectricity.
I get it.
Yeah.
So he's already working with some pretty advanced concepts.
Yes.
But then he joins Bell Labs in 1929.
Bell Labs.
That's when things really start to heat up, right?
Yeah, Bell Labs was the place to be for any inventor or scientist. It was like a hotbed of innovation.
Wow.
And it's where Brattain really starts to make his mark.
So what does he do there?
He teams up with Joseph A. Becker,
Becker.
and they focus on copper oxide rectifiers
Okay.
and fermionic emission.
Now you're going to have to break those down for me.
Okay.
What exactly are rectifiers?
Think of them as like gatekeepers for electrical current.
Okay.
They convert alternating current, like the kind in power lines, to
Okay.
direct current, which most electronics use.
Oh, okay.
So Bratton's work was essential for
Okay.
developing all kinds of electronic devices.
Interesting. And thermionic emission, what's that all about?
Well, fermionic emission is
Yeah.
all about how electrons escape from a heated material.
Okay.
Like, imagine the filaments in old vacuum tubes.
Yeah.
When they heat up,
Yeah.
they start giving off electrons.
Right.
Barat and Becker were studying this
Okay.
to understand how to better control electron flow.
Ah, so it all ties back to that,
Well,
right?
it does.
Controlling electrons. Yeah. It seems like this early work was setting the stage for something bigger.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Their research at Bell Labs wasn't just tinkering.
Okay.
They actually proved the Sommerfeld theory through experiments,
Wow.
which was a huge step forward in understanding how electrons behave in metals.
So he was making big contributions even before the transistor.
He was.
But wait, didn't he also work on submarine detection during World War II?
You've done your research.
A little bit, yeah.
During the war,
Mm.
Brattain used his expertise to help develop sensitive magnetometers.
What are those?
These instruments
Yeah.
could detect those subtle magnetic changes caused by submarines.
Ah, so not directly related to transistors,
Right.
but still really important for the war effort.
Exactly.
Shows how adaptable his skills were.
It does.
So after the war,
Mm-hmm.
this experience proved super valuable.
Oh, yeah.
When Bell Labs forms a new research group
Uh-huh.
focused on solid-state physics in 1945.
Yeah.
This is where the story of the transistor really begins.
It is.
Okay, so the stage is set.
Yeah.
This new research group, the world recovering from the war,
Right.
and all of Bratton's experience has led him to this point.
Totally.
What happens next?
Well, you can't talk about inventing the transistor without introducing the other key players.
Okay, who are they?
Joining Brattain is John Bardeen,
Bardeen.
a brilliant theorist,
Huh?
and their leader is William Shockley,
Shockley.
an ambitious solid-state physics expert.
Got it.
This is our dream team,
Wow.
and they're about to embark on a journey that changes everything.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting.
It does.
It sounds like the perfect mix.
Yeah.
You've got the theoretical brilliance of Bardeen, the
Uh-huh.
experimental genius of Brattain,
Right.
and Shockley's leadership.
It's a great...
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, as with any big invention, there are bound to be some challenges and disagreements along the way.
I'm sure.
But that's what makes this story so captivating.
Totally.
We'll dive into those trials and triumphs next time as we uncover how this team went from an idea to a working transistor.
I can't wait. This deep dive is already blowing my mind.
Oh, good.
And we're just getting started.
I know, right?
For our listeners out there,
Yes.
think about this.
Okay.
What were some of the turning points in your life? How did seemingly unrelated events
Yeah.
lead you to where you are today?
Good question. Welcome back. Last time we left our dream team all set up at Bell Labs, Brattain, Bardeen, and Shockley, ready to tackle that challenge of solid-state amplification.
Right, and I'm really curious to hear how they actually went about inventing the transistor.
Oh, yeah.
Was it like a sudden eureka moment or more of a gradual process?
It was definitely more of a journey, lots of twists and turns.
Yeah.
Shockley, being the ambitious leader,
Yeah.
he had his own vision for a transistor, what he called a field effect transistor.
So that was the initial goal, to create a field effect transistor.
Exactly. The idea was to use an electric field
Oh, yeah.
to control how electrons flowed through a semiconductor material.
Interesting.
But his initial design didn't really work out the way he expected.
Oh, that sounds like a big setback.
What?
How did they deal with that disappointment?
Well, it was a hurdle, for sure.
Yeah.
But it also became a turning point.
Okay.
This is where Bardeen's deep understanding of quantum mechanics comes in.
Right.
He started looking into these things called surface states,
Oh, yeah.
which are like tiny imperfections on a material surface.
You mentioned those before.
I did.
Can you remind me why they were so important?
Sure. Imagine you're trying to get electrons to flow smoothly through something. These surface states are like little traps. They capture some of the electrons and stop them from moving freely.
Got it.
Bardeen realized that these surface states were the reason Shockley's field effect transistor wasn't working.
That's fascinating.
It is.
So they had to find a way to get past these surface states.
They did.
How did they do that?
This is where Bratton's experimental brilliance really shines.
Okay.
He had this incredible talent for manipulating materials at a microscopic level.
Like a surgeon, but for semiconductors?
Exactly.
What?
Through tons of experiments.
Yeah.
He and Bardeen started unlocking the secrets of these surface states.
Interesting.
They carefully tested different materials, configurations, voltages,
Uh-huh.
always looking for clues.
This must have been a time of intense trial and error.
It was. They were going into uncharted territory, really.
Right.
Guided by Bardeen's theories and Bratton's intuition.
I see.
And then, in a moment that changes history, Brattain has a breakthrough.
Okay. This is it. Tell me everything.
All right. It's December 16th, 1947.
December 16th.
Brattain has this ingenious idea.
What is it?
He decides to put two gold leaf contacts really close together
Okay.
on a germanium surface.
Why gold and why germanium?
Well, they had been trying out all kinds of materials, and they found that germanium was much better for amplification than silicon.
Okay.
As for gold, it was a great conductor.
Right.
And the thin, flexible nature of gold leaf made it possible to place the contacts very precisely.
So they had these two gold contacts on a germanium surface?
Yeah.
What happens next?
They apply a small voltage to one of the contacts, which they call the emitter.
The emitter.
This injects these holes into the germanium, basically the absence of electrons. It's like creating spaces for electrons to move into.
Got it.
Now, these holes flow towards the other gold contact, called the collector.
Okay, the collector.
But here's the key.
Yeah.
As these holes pass by a third contact, called the base,
The base.
they actually influence the flow of electrons between the base and the collector.
Wait, so they can control a larger flow of electrons between the base and the collector?
Yes.
By controlling the flow of holes with the emitter.
Exactly.
That's amplification.
That's it. They figured out how to use a small signal to control a larger one.
Wow.
All without needing those bulky, inefficient vacuum tubes.
This is incredible. So this is how the transistor was born.
It was a big moment, but not the end of the story.
Okay.
They called it the point contact transistor.
Point contact transistor.
And while it worked, there was still a lot they didn't understand about how it worked.
Really?
For example, they weren't totally sure how the charges were being balanced within the germanium.
So even with a working device,
Right.
there were still mysteries to solve.
Absolutely. Science is often like that.
It is.
You make a discovery and it opens up a whole new set of questions.
Interesting.
But the important thing was, it worked.
It did.
They had created the first solid-state amplifier.
Wow.
A tiny device that could revolutionize electronics.
I can only imagine the excitement in the lab.
Oh, I'm sure.
So what happened next?
Well,
Did they tell the world about their discovery right away?
not so fast.
Yeah.
Bell Labs was very secretive about the invention at first.
Right.
They knew they had something truly groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to risk losing their advantage.
Makes sense. You can't just shout it from the rooftops.
Exactly.
Especially when it has the potential to disrupt entire industries.
Right.
So what did they do?
So for the next few months,
Mhm.
it was all about intense internal research and development.
Oh.
They had to refine the design,
Right.
understand the science better,
Yeah.
and figure out how to manufacture these transistors reliably.
It must have been a pretty intense time.
It was.
Were they worried about other researchers beating them to it?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
There was a real sense of urgency.
Okay.
They knew other labs around the world were working on similar things.
Right.
They couldn't afford to fall behind.
No.
Finally, after months of secrecy,
Yeah.
Bell Labs decides to go public.
Okay, so the world's about to learn about the transistor.
Yes.
What was the reaction like?
Well, on June 30th, 1948,
June 30th.
Bell Labs holds a press conference in New York City.
In New York City?
And as you can imagine, it creates a media frenzy.
Wow.
Newspapers and magazines are going crazy with headlines
Right.
like tiny device performs miracles and revolution in electronics.
Wow.
Even the New York Times called it an invention that may have far-reaching significance.
It's funny to think that something so common today
I know, right?
was once considered a marvel of science.
It is.
What about the scientific community?
Yeah.
How did they react?
Scientists and engineers all over the world were excited and skeptical.
Okay.
They wanted to learn more, of course,
Sure.
but they also wanted to see proof.
Right.
Bell Labs, surprisingly, decided on a very open policy.
Open.
Yeah.
That seems strange. Why wouldn't they want to protect their invention?
It might seem odd,
It does.
but they had a clever plan.
What was it?
They realized the true power of the transistor
Yeah.
wasn't in keeping it secret,
Okay.
but in spreading the knowledge and encouraging collaboration.
So they wanted others to join the transistor revolution.
Exactly.
Wow.
They understood that the faster the technology advanced, the more everyone would benefit, including Bell Labs.
Right.
And their gamble paid off.
It did.
It did.
Yep.
Within just a few years, transistors were popping up everywhere.
Wow, that's amazing.
They started showing up in hearing aids, radios,
Okay.
even those massive early computers.
It's incredible that one tiny invention
It is.
could have such a huge impact.
It is, but before we get too carried away with the transistor's success, we need to talk about something else.
What's that?
The controversy over who actually deserved credit for the invention.
Right. There was some tension between Brattain, Bardeen, and Shockley.
There was.
What exactly happened?
Well, Shockley, even though his field effect transistor didn't work out at first, he felt sidelined. He thought he deserved more recognition because he was the one who first came up with the idea of a transistor.
Even though his initial design hadn't worked.
Yeah, and it's important to note that Shockley did contribute a lot later on.
Oh.
He developed the junction transistor, a more robust and easier to manufacture kind of transistor.
Got it.
That quickly became more popular than the point contact transistor.
So there were two types of transistors.
There were the point contact transistor.
Yeah.
Bardeen and Bratton's creation was a bit finicky.
Okay.
But the junction transistor, Shockley's invention, was much more practical for mass production.
Got it.
It's the type you'd find in most electronics today.
So Shockley's contributions are important.
They are, definitely.
Okay.
His work was crucial to how the transistor evolved.
Right.
But his insistence on getting all the credit for the invention created a lot of tension and resentment within the team.
And that eventually led to Bardeen leaving Bell Labs.
It did. He felt like his own contributions were being ignored. And he was also frustrated with Shockley's leadership style, which was becoming more and more controlling.
I see.
So in 1951, Bardeen left Bell Labs and joined the faculty at the University of Illinois.
Wow, a big change.
It was.
It's too bad such a successful team couldn't stay together.
It is.
But I guess that's how it goes sometimes with ambition and ego.
Yeah, you're right.
Even in science.
It shows that scientific breakthroughs, even the ones that change the world, were still driven by people with all their complexities and flaws.
So Bardeen goes to Illinois.
He does.
What about Brattain?
Well,
did he stay at Bell Labs?
Brattain stayed with Bell Labs his whole career.
Wow.
He kept exploring solid-state physics.
That's great.
He seemed happy with what he had accomplished, driven by a love of science more than fame or fortune.
That's a really admirable quality.
It is.
So did he make any more big contributions?
He did. He continued researching surface properties and the transistor effect, always trying to understand things better.
I see.
But what's really interesting
What's that?
is that he also got interested in a completely different area.
Really? What?
The electrochemical processes in living things.
Wow.
Specifically blood clotting.
That's a surprising change.
It is.
What made him interested in that?
It was personal. His son needed heart surgery.
Oh, wow.
And this experience made Brattain curious about the complex things happening inside the human body.
I see.
He even worked with medical researchers to explore this new area of research.
So it seems like the Nobel Prize didn't change him that much.
No, not really.
That's great.
He stayed grounded, dedicated to his research, and passionate about teaching.
Teaching?
Yeah, he spent a lot of time teaching.
Where?
At both Harvard and Whitman College, his old school.
That's wonderful. He seemed to really enjoy sharing his knowledge.
He did.
And inspiring new scientists. It's inspiring to think that someone who achieved so much was still drawn to teaching and mentoring.
It says a lot about him.
It does.
And his story, along with Bardeen and Shockley's, highlights something important about scientific progress.
What's that?
It's rarely a solo effort.
Right.
It's often the result of collaboration.
Yeah.
A mix of ideas, personalities, and even a bit of luck.
Absolutely. They were all brilliant.
They were.
But together, they did something truly amazing.
They did.
And their invention, the transistor,
has
had an impact that's hard to overstate.
I know, right? Think about it.
Okay.
The transistor is like the basic building block of all modern electronics.
Yeah.
It's in your smartphone, your computer, your car, pretty much everything.
Wow.
It's the reason electronics have gotten smaller, faster, more powerful.
It's like this tiny device started a tech revolution.
It did.
That has changed the world.
Totally.
We live in the age of the transistor.
We do.
And it all started with those three guys at Bell Labs.
It's pretty incredible, and what's even more amazing is that the story of the transistor isn't over.
Really?
Scientists are still finding new ways to use and improve it.
Wow, who knows what the future holds?
I know, right? It's exciting to think about.
It is.
Maybe one of our listeners will be inspired to make the next big breakthrough in transistor technology.
That would be awesome.
It would.
But even if you're not a scientist,
right,
you can still appreciate how this invention has changed your life.
Absolutely. The next time you use your smartphone, or watch a movie on your laptop, or even just turn on a light, think about Walter Brattain, John Bardeen, and William Shockley. They changed the world in ways they probably couldn't have imagined.
It's amazing to think about.
It is.
That even small discoveries can have huge consequences.
They can.
And that's what's so cool about science.
Yeah.
It's a journey of exploration and innovation and collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always pushing the boundary.
Pushing the boundaries.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Walter Houser Brattain and the invention of the transistor.
The transistor.
We've seen how this amazing mix of brilliance and persistence and a little bit of luck, let's be honest, led to this groundbreaking discovery.
Absolutely.
So let's explore what happened after the Nobel Prize.
Okay.
And really try to understand the lasting impact of the transistor.
It's incredible to think about where these guys went after that achievement.
It is, right?
John Bardeen, for instance. He didn't just stop there.
No.
He went on to have a truly amazing career at the University of Illinois.
Didn't he win a second Nobel Prize?
He did.
It's almost unheard of.
It is. He's the only person ever to win 2 Nobel Prizes in physics.
Wow.
His second one was for his work on superconductivity.
What's that?
That's when certain materials can conduct electricity with 0 resistance.
No resistance at all.
None.
That's incredible.
It is. He was a true scientific rock star.
So, Bardeen kept pushing the boundaries of science.
He did.
What about Shockley?
Well,
Did he ever reach that same level of recognition?
Shockley's story is a bit different.
Okay.
Maybe a little more of a cautionary tale.
How so?
Remember, he was always ambitious.
Yeah.
The one who felt he deserved more credit for the transistor.
Right.
He left Bell Labs in 1953.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, to start his own semiconductor company in California.
Interesting. So he wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Exactly. He wanted to capitalize on the transistor boom.
Did it work out?
Unfortunately, no.
Oh.
Shockley Semiconductor Laboratory, even with a talented team, faced a lot of internal conflict and technical challenges.
So it failed?
It did, eventually.
That's too bad. His reputation as a brilliant scientist must have taken a hit.
It did, sadly. This entrepreneurial misstep kind of overshadowed his scientific accomplishments.
It's a good reminder that even geniuses can make mistakes.
Yeah.
It takes a different set of skills to succeed in business.
It does.
Did this failure affect him personally, do you think?
It seems so.
Okay.
His later years were also filled with controversy.
Really?
He became very outspoken about his views on race and intelligence, promoting theories that were widely condemned as racist and scientifically unfounded.
It's sad that those views overshadowed his scientific legacy.
It is a real shame.
What about Brattain? How did he deal with everything after the Nobel Prize?
Brattin's story is probably the most heartwarming of the 3.
That's good to hear.
He stayed at Bell Labs for his entire career.
Wow, he was dedicated.
He was. He continued to explore solid-state physics.
Sounds like he was really in his element there.
He was. He seemed content with what he had accomplished.
Good for him.
Driven by a true love of science, not fame or fortune.
Did he keep making significant contributions to the field?
He did. He continued researching surface properties and the transistor effect, always searching for a deeper understanding.
What an amazing dedication.
But here's the really fascinating part.
Okay, what is it?
He also got interested in a completely different field.
Really?
The electrochemical processes in living matter.
Wow.
Specifically blood clotting.
Blood clotting? What made him interested in that?
It was a personal connection.
Okay.
His son needed heart surgery.
Oh, wow.
And this experience sparked a curiosity in Brattain about the human body.
That's incredible.
He even collaborated with medical researchers to explore this new area.
It seems like the Nobel Prize didn't change who he was at his core.
It seems that way. He stayed grounded, dedicated to research, and passionate about teaching.
Well, enjoyed teaching.
He did. He spent a lot of time teaching at Harvard and back at Whitman.
That's so wonderful.
It speaks volumes about his character.
It does.
And, you know, his story, along with Bardeen and Shockley's, they highlight an important truth about scientific progress.
What's that?
It's rarely a one-person show.
True.
It often takes collaboration, a blend of ideas and personalities, and sometimes even a bit of luck.
It's true. They were all brilliant on their own.
They were.
But together, they achieved something truly remarkable.
They did.
And their invention, the transistor.
Ah, the transistor.
It's hard to overstate its impact.
It is. Think about it. The transistor is the basic building block of all modern electronics.
It's everywhere, isn't it?
It is. It's in your phone, your computer, your car.
Wow.
It's why electronics have gotten smaller, faster, more powerful.
That's really mind-blowing.
It is. This tiny device sparked a technological revolution.
It did. We live in the age of the transistor.
We do.
And it all started with those 3 guys at Bell Labs.
Incredible. And what's even more amazing?
What's that?
The story of the transistor isn't over.
There's more.
Scientists and engineers are still finding new ways to use and improve it.
That's so cool.
It is. Who knows what the future holds?
It's exciting to think about the possibilities.
It is. Maybe one of our listeners will be inspired to make the next big breakthrough in transistor technology.
That would be something. But even if you're not a scientist,
Right.
you can still appreciate the impact this invention has had on your life.
Absolutely.
It's true.
Yeah.
The next time you use your smartphone,
Yeah.
watch a movie on your laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Even just turn on a light.
It's all thanks to the transistor.
Take a moment to appreciate Brattain, Bardeen, and Shockley.
I will.
They changed the world.
They did in ways they probably couldn't have even imagined.
It's a reminder that even small discoveries can have huge consequences.
They can.
And that's the beauty of science, right?
It is.
It's a journey of exploration, innovation, and collaboration.
Absolutely.
Always pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Pushing the boundaries.
Well, on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Walter Houser Brattain.
We have.
We hope you've enjoyed this journey as much as we have.
I know, we have.
If this story has sparked your curiosity, we encourage you to learn more about transistors and the history of electronics.
There's so much to discover.
Remember, knowledge is power. And there's a whole universe of fascinating information out there just waiting to be explored.
Waiting to be explored.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions.
Keep asking questions.